Hey, welcome to Roaming Minds. I'm Carlos.
I'm AJ, and here we talk about the thoughts that kept us out of all the really good schools. You know, those quiet spirals, the questions that keep you up at night, and the trials and tribulations that we all face as human beings.
This show is part reflection, part reminder. We're not broken, we're on a journey of growth. Please note that this conversation should not be taken as medical or professional advice. See the link in the description below if you require immediate help.
Every week, we unpack what it means to choose joy. Not the loud version that Karen is peddling, but the quiet, hard-earned kind that comes from finally feeling like yourself again.
Let's keep this conversation going. Join us on Discord or connect to a peer through Kindred. Let's get into it.
I think this is an interesting one because I think it's interesting for a different reason. I don't know. I do find all of our topics interesting, to be honest with you. Like, it's not a me, maybe, but this one is really interesting because I don't think we talk about this a lot. We talk about stability in terms of systems and in terms of, I don't really want to make those distinctions because really it is just in terms of systems. The world at large is a much larger system. And we want stability in things like that. But for everything else, especially more Western ideals, we push towards intensity. We don't push towards stability.
Yeah.
We want
Yeah, that
stability,
makes sense.
but we don't want stability all at the same time, if that makes sense, which is really kind of weird, to be honest, but that's all right. We literally sit there and praise intensity, not instability, but intensity. Because if you're unstable or unstable, it's pretty obvious and everyone's like, weirdo. But there's no, but if we see somebody who's intensely doing something, we don't really say anything. We're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Maybe we should do that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I should wake up at 4 o'clock. And that's intense, man. Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going running every single day is intense. All right. I was thinking about that yesterday. I did that for a little while, way back when. And I didn't do it. I'm not telling you I did it for long, but I did it for a little bit. And it's intense. It's not sustainable. At least for me, it was not sustainable. It led to instability. And again, we don't like instability. We want to be stable, but we want it to remain intense. And you're like, those two don't go hand in hand. I don't think I've ever met
Yeah,
anybody
because
who's
I
lived
was
an
thinking about
intense
it. I was like,
lifestyle
you must
stable.
have the really the only way to really do it is you have practically every minute of your life planned, and you can, and in a weird way, control all other outside forces, which you can't really do. Going back to our conversation from last week, the world is unpredictable. You don't know when you're gonna get sick. So when you have that cold or when you get injured, you're not going to be able to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go do your half marathon and then be back by 7 o'clock and then eat your breakfast or do whatever. So it's quite hard to sustain because there are always the the joke is always there are two constant things in life: taxes and change. Like, oh, and that three things and that. Those are like the three things that will like inevitably happen in anybody's life.
Yeah. It's it's to me, I forgot what I was going to say. Shit. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. I was on a tangent and then I don't know what the fuck happened. It really doesn't matter. But it's really interesting.
I was talking about the
What were you talking
the
about? What
ever
were you just saying?
constant
Remind me,
changes
because
in
that
life
was
and
good. I like
how,
where we were going.
as much as we like intensity, you can't really sustain it for long periods of time because it's because of the unpredictability of life. Because the only way you can do it is
Right.
if you literally lived in a bubble and you can control every aspect of your life. Make sure that there's no bacteria, no germ, no nothing. It's just you can control every single thing. That's the only way it can work.
Right. And with that
Hmm.
intensity, right, there's two things that come up because it's not just the fact that everything changes. That is a major piece of it. Change constantly is occurring in our lives. But intensity inevitably leads to burnout because if you are doing something intensely, it
Right.
implies that you are not going to be able to do that for a sustained period of time. And then on top of that, I had
While
another
you're thinking
point.
about it, I was gonna say, like, for example, like, because you said we are attracted to intensity. Like, 'cause we've all been at the gym, and I've like been also guilty of this. Like, where like I'm like working, and everybody's looking at me. They're like, "Wow, they're doing that," but like,
Mhm.
I know when I come back tomorrow, I am not going to be able to work at the same level because my muscles are gonna be sore. I am gonna have, I'm gonna be depleted of energy, or even if I have the same energy, my circumstances would change because sometimes like I just somebody just told me some bad news or I didn't do well on an exam or something else is going on, so my mood is not necessarily the same, so I don't always have that intensity present, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. It was thank you for that because I think that's what I was s I was always thinking about it in terms of the gym, because I think that's a great metaphor, and it kind of speaks to our cultural bias. We believe that it is better to work out to failure and having very intense short workouts rather than long sustained periods of activity in order for exercise. That's pretty common across. I mean, you look at most fitness influencers in America, and that's essentially what they are promoting. They're doing incredible feats. I'm not taking any of that away from them, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it. It might be the one of the better ways for building muscles and things like that, but that doesn't mean that that is the best way to be in shape. Training for kung fu, a lot of them are longer but less intense exercises, and I respond better to that. It's something that I've always been a huge fan of. I keep wanting to like jump around and it's not good and it's really irritating me, but that's okay. This was a really interesting question that I did want to address, and that's why I was trying to like jump between the two, and it just wasn't working. Why does when we have a calm, stable life, it feels like we're not doing enough, and it to the outside, other people will
I
perceive
mean,
it
because
as
I mean,
us
it's
not
really
doing
a cultural and a
enough.
societal thing. Like at least in America, I'll prefer saying that it's real. It's the idea
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
even in some, because my parents are African, and sometimes I'll literally just be sitting in my room reading, and to them, even though I'm reading and I am doing something, because I'm not actively in chaos or stressed out while studying. To them, it looks like I'm not doing anything, and it's really the idea we really value productivity because I think people like to see the work. They like to still people. We are quantifiable creatures. You can see. Go for it. Like, we like to
I'm
see
definitely gonna push back
that
on
there
that,
is
but
some
that's
kind of
okay.
work
I'm
and
hearing you. We
active, not necessarily active effort. That's what sometimes when something comes easy to people, people really hate or they don't like that person because they're like, oh, like we've all had that one classmate who's like, oh, I literally looked over my notes before the exam. And while you were out there studying 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours before the exam, it feel you want to be able to see you really put the work in order to see like the product of the end result. We really value that. We
Mhm.
really value struggle. I don't know what as a society we value people struggling and
Yeah,
groveling to get to
yeah.
something.
I think there's a couple of things that especially within which you just discussed, and so there's one thing that I wanna
Yeah.
highlight because what did I say? I said I was gonna push back on something. Oh, that we are a quantifiable beast. I'm definitely gonna disagree. There are a lot of people that operate in qualitative situations. However, our gold standard is it's shifting currently, which is awesome. But for much of the 1900s, we really shifted towards what can we quantify? How can we tangibly, we've moved to being more concrete. And that's what part of the problem is because if I
Yeah.
can't see it happening, then did it actually occur? And there's a couple of reasons I think for that. One of the shifts is the fact that we have made this shift towards more quantifiable natures. The other is that there are people who take advantage of a qualitative system. There are what's it called? Most when I was working for Home Depot, they worked under the assumption that I forget what the principle. I think say it's the 80-20 principle. Like 20% of the workforce is going to do 100% of the work or whatever. That I that's very real and legitimate. That's crazy. So that means that only 20%. So if we have 100 employees, only 20 of them are doing all of the work in order to make that happen. So I think that's guaranteed a piece of it because if we don't see that concrete happening, we just assume, oh, well, they just must be lazy. You know what I mean? They just, because again, like you said, we are geared towards productivity. Everything that we see these days, or at least everything that I see these days, is like, here's how to make you more productive. Here's how to make you more productive. I'm like, dude, if I add two more things or one more thing, my fucking head's going to explode. No. I'll tell you one of the best things that came from the surgery recently is I had a
Recovery.
week where the only thing that mattered was that's it. I didn't have to be anywhere. I didn't have to, there were things that I had to make sure that I got done. But again, that was night and day difference between boom, 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 boom. And all right, checked off. Yep. Checked off. All right, I can go do what I got to do. Checked off. Again, doesn't mean that I wasn't productive. Doesn't mean that I didn't get anything done. But um, it's a big problem that we don't have that we have that misunderstanding with stability. We do tend to equate stability with stagnation. And that doesn't have to be the case because I can be okay. I use this example because I've talked about it quite a lot here. Having weekly plans for food that can be seen as being
Hmm.
stagnant because I'm not doing any extra
Yeah.
work to make sure that all of this is happening, but I still did the work at some point. Do you know what I mean? I still put forth the effort at this point. And it's I have people asking me like, "Hey, what's going on with all the stuff that you're doing? What's going on with all the stuff that you do? Are you not working on it anymore?" Yeah, no, of course I am. Yeah, it's it's insane, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that I'm primarily undertaking by myself, and that's not a problem. I'm not worried about
Yeah.
that, but don't expect me to have it ready for you in 2 weeks. So a part of that ties with that instant gratification. We want that bam, 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 bam. But we also want to see your results. We don't want to see your journey. We don't want to see your process. Nobody cares about your process. No one gives two shits whether I am busting my ass 7 days a week to try and make things happen if
Yeah.
nothing is happening, right? But everybody wants to see what's going to happen at the end when I either give up or, or make it. Right? Those are the two options. And it really is interesting. I mean, I get asked by people all the time, what do you do? 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 Motherfucker, leave me the fuck. To me, stability is great because you have that ability to be able to calm down and process what it is that is going around you. It's not that you're not growing, because that's not the case. And stability is really required in order to be able to grow. Even if you look at productive systems, if that's our goal, everybody just wants to be more productive. All of the things that
Yep.
we are implementing and that we are talking about are how to promote stable systems. We are taking cold plunges to try and reduce cortisol, which is going to stabilize our system. But stable environments provide predictable environments. So they allow your nervous system to rest just a little bit so that you can go ahead and recover. You have in those predictive environments, then you have a reduced cognitive load, which is exactly what we're looking for, increases your capacity to recover, and things remain consistent so that you can go ahead and make better decisions.
It is.
That's what we're all looking for, isn't it? But the image becomes more important than the result. Case in point, look at any of the
Hmm.
major AI companies currently. None of them are stable. But their image is absolutely everything to them because their image is determining funding, it's determining contracts, it's determining all kinds of different things of,
Yeah.
about their success
Yeah.
and or their failures currently. Meanwhile, everyone's like, "The system's about to break," like, because this just is not. It's not sustainable. It's very intense. The system that we have built around AI is very, very intense. One company is giving mass amounts of money to another so that they can go and give that money right back to them so that it inflates their number. And you're like, that's intense. But there's nothing that's going to maintain that long term. But who's getting rewarded? The stable
I
or the
am.
intense? The intense, because all of them are. They're all playing their game. The other thing that I think we haven't hit on that we miss a little bit is
Hmm.
doing something consistently and doing something very, very well are what creates confidence. If I can do something across a period of time and do it very, very well, every time that I do it, I'm going to feel better about doing it. When you are constantly being asked to adapt because your environment is complete chaos, your nervous system has to work extra fucking hard. It just does. And there's times for it. I don't want to say that stability is your answer. You must maintain stability for the rest of your life. I don't think that that's accurate. But when it comes to getting appropriate rest, when it comes to recovering from those more
Oh yeah.
intense
You
times, we
I mean,
need
as people say,
some
like when things
level
are
of
crazy, like
stability.
really, when people say, "Who's your support system?" It's like, what's going to keep? What's the stabling forces in your life when things get so out of whack? What do you do as an individual to kind of like bring that balance, or what are your go-to, or are there any people that really are able to? "Oh, look at me, you're going to be okay. You just need to rest. You just need, or do you have a diet? Do you have a stable diet? Some you need a even because also even within the intensity, there is always some sort of stability that needs to occur. Because if not, the unstable will take over and it will destroy you.
Yes. And this is why I think this was what I was missing when we first started this, and I didn't have it in mind. And I was trying to formulate this and it was pissing me off in everything that I was saying. Stability is not, I'm not here promoting that you have to have the most stable life imaginable. I don't think that's accurate. I've not in a million years. I think you need stabilizing forces like you mentioned because, hmm, interesting. I'm trying to, I think it all depends ultimately on, eh, see, this is where it gets confusing and tricky because I want to say that like there's like some sort of balance in between. But I don't think there is. Because if I say that, then that implies that you can just be intense as an MF for a specified amount of time. And provided you have stable forces, you're going to be okay. And that may not be the case. If you only go stable, and we only have stability. Where's the negative drawback? I'm sure that there is one. Okay. Now I think I know what I'm trying to say. Stability can lead to complacency, right? And that is where stability can be really, really bad. Because if we get complacent and we get comfortable, which is kind of what has happened to us as a society at large, right? Things have become more stable. So rather than accepting that and working within that, we have become complacent. Productivity has dropped. That rise in quantifiable results have happened because we want to see those tangible results. And then the intensity must be increased in order to combat that complacency. There are definitely people out there that are advocating for intensity as a
Out of
solution for
that's intellect, but
complacency.
also like
I
no,
don't know
I
if that's
think
entirely accurate.
I mean, I think that really is the main problem, like of like a society as a general. We've become so complacent because when you're saying that, because I get, I'm not going into other
Mhm.
issues, but I was thinking that really is the
Right.
issue with what's going on today. We've gotten so complacent that w- sometimes we can really allow the world to burn, but because we're like, it's relatively okay. It's bad, but it's okay. I can kind of live through it. So you kind of just allow certain things to just kind of go by without really trying to address or fix those issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stability does not equal
nor
complacency,
success.
and intensity does not equal stability. No, not at all. Because you can be real, real intense and not. Mm, yeah, no, because unfortunately, let's say I start something intensely.
In a weird way, kind of tapers off into a weird
Right.
gray area between stability and intensity because it's not the same intensity that you
Mhm.
begin with. It 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 goes down because again, it's just that whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever the action is, you cannot keep something
Mhm.
at 100 the way you started. Because even if you're as passionate as about something the
Mhm.
same way you were day one,
Mhm.
you just learn things, you learn different things throughout that. It just makes things more realistic. Because I think sometimes when we begin something with a lot of intensity, it's out of, I don't want to say, let me choose my words carefully.
So this is a hard
I'm
one.
not,
It is
I
complicated.
don't like the word hope, but like, or dream, but it's maybe fantasy might be a better word for it. You it's like an idealized version of what you want to do, but then as you start doing that thing, you need to kind of you have to kind of dial it back. Even with when we're talking about companies and things like that, as the things ramp up, they kind of have to be like, okay, well, things are going too fast. You kind of have to ramp it up before, because if you keep ramping things up, things can easily fall off the edge of the cliff, and there's no really dialing it back. Because once you crush a line, there's really is no coming back from it.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying with that. Um, I don't I don't want to say I agree with everything, but I agree with how where you got to, which is fine, and I think that's really all that matters. That idea of once you cross a certain point, there is no going back is interesting. You talked about more about it leading to burnout, but at the same time, we also have to mention that if you start off strong, mm, too strong, we see this every year at New Year's. Oh, I'm going to the gym every day, and you're like, oh, cool, and you do that for a week, and then it's it because you just burned out your system. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's the key piece that I think we're missing is thinking about it from a systems level, not from an individual level. I think we've been talking about it from an individual level and we've been hinting towards the system ideas, but not directly saying this is how you set up the system so that it remains in place over time. Think about it like a car. A car is a system, right? It's the engine, everything works together in order to keep going. If I drive that car at 100 miles an hour or 120, 140 everywhere I go, my car is going to burn out quicker. Why? Because it's working harder. This is not a maybe. This is things that actually happen. However, if I take care of it and slow down, drive the way that is expected, right? I can get a lot more out of it, right? I never forget. I used to watch Top Gear. Did you ever watch that one? As a bunch of guys out of Britain, dude was like, "I'm going to be racing." The guy was going up the coast of, I want to say Australia or somewhere on a boat, and the other guy was going to drive from the
Oh,
bottom to the top. And he goes, "And I'm
I've
going
seen
to
that
do it in the
video. Not that you're
fastest car
describing, I
in the
think I've
world." It was
seen
a
that
Toyota
clip.
Corolla. Yeah, it was just funny. He's like, "The only reason why it's the fastest car in the world is because it's not mine." You know, like, because when you push the system harder, the system has
I
to
was gonna
take
say, I mean, even
more
if we're talking
in
about an
order
individual
to
basis,
recover
like your
from that.
body is a system. Your body is multiple smaller systems working together. Because before you even brought up that
Mm,
example, I was gonna talk about how in racing, like on track, you start off fast. That unless you're really the only race that you really are just full out is the 100 meter. Every other race, you start full out, you kind of slow down a little bit, and then you kind of kick it in the last 50. That's like real to really do it. Like the 100 where you're just like, it's just 10 seconds, like,
mhm,
but in all other races, you start off, huh, you kind of get off the pushing line, you stable into it once you find your groove, and then you accelerate again at the end.
mhm. And my goal in describing it as a system is not to remove the individual from the equation, because the individual is part of a system. However, I think that without looking at it from a biological standpoint, it's very hard to describe what it
Yeah,
is
that
that
makes
we're
sense.
talking about without looking at it from a higher level. Because all the things that we've talked about this season has will end up producing that stability that we're looking for. I will tell you that my life is pretty stable, but it is far from fucking boring. I have something to do at all points in time. It's not even a maybe. And my days look relatively similar.
My
Could
life
it
is the
introduce
opposite.
some
Quite
intensity?
intense,
Yeah,
but
but I get to
very boring.
control the level of intensity with which I bring. Well, yeah, you're right. But that's
Education, yeah.
how school is set up, especially med school or higher level education. All of them are very. My master's program was fucking intense, dude, and I only had 2 classes a semester, maybe 3. I don't know, 2 or 3. Yeah, 2 or 3. I think I took 3, some and 2, some. But I was working. It was a lot. However, having that stability preserves your nervous system capacity for when those intense moments arise, because those intense moments will arise. It goes back to what you were talking about earlier with change happening. Change is a constant, change is inevitable. There are going to be periods of your life where things are just going to be more intense. There's no way around it. There's no way that we can handle it. But we have to be able to come back from that. Nobody is superhuman. Whatever. Huh? I'm not even going to go there. Um, there are ways to ensure that we can come back from those periods of intensity. And having controlled periods of intensity really is beneficial for the system, because it was interesting. I was thinking about that when I had surgery. The first week was I mean, the system that I have set up from my life was just on autopilot, and it worked out perfectly because everything got done. Nothing was too crazy. If you can leave your life on autopilot for a week, 2 weeks, then the system is
Yeah.
working. If you can't do that, then the system's not working. And so we do this by reducing our decision load. We talked about this in episode 7, episode 8. If we can reduce those decisions, we've just increased our nervous system capacity, which means that we can take on a little extra if and when it is needed. And it is going to be needed. We talked about intentional constraints last week. That's huge, huge because it stops the what if game, right? It stops the floating anxiety. It preserves the energy in the nervous system to save it for the future things that we actually need. Intentionally designing our environments also plays a role because if I'm coming home and I feel at peace and everything is calm, then I don't have to worry about those things. If I can reduce the amount of stimulation in that environment, that's a big deal because it goes back to reducing cognitive load, preserving that capacity inside of our nervous system, where intensity takes it and goes, I'm just going to eat away all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it until you have none left. That stability is going to be able to come in and help regenerate your nervous system and help you to recover. So I think stability gets a bad rep because we really think about it more in terms of complacency rather than stability. But stability is super powerful.
Got it.
I think that the biggest challenge is going to be to separate stability from complacency. We don't have any control over. This is one of the areas that I'm getting into a little bit more in terms of research. And there's this idea of information theory from information theory that when you take an action, that information remains dormant until it becomes activated again. There is really no determining when that information gets activated again or if it gets activated again. And the reason why I went down that road is because I was thinking about
You
the
know what?
new
We made it.
new
You
One
made
Piece
it
manga
two
that came out
episodes
this week.
without
Uh,
getting into a loss in the previous one. So
Dude, no, I understand, but I it was one of the craziest things. So probably book 30-ish, something like
yeah,
that. 450 over 10, 15. There was an incident that occurred with two people, right? At book 111, those same people get reunited in the same situation again, but one of those people was thought to be dead for quite a long time. It's like a very intense moment. But that's where I started thinking about that. Sometimes all we have to do is just take the action and then wait patiently for the results to come. And in that time frame, especially given that much uncertainty, I think that this person is dead. And I've thought that for 20 some fucking years or whatever. There's no understanding that that information is going to come back to us. There's no guarantee that that information is going to come back to us. I'm not even thinking that that information is going to come back to us, right? This ties back in with change is inevitable, that in that unpredictability and that difficulty with predictive processing, right? But it makes so much sense when we look back on it. You're like, oh man, that's awesome. And this is why we get a lot of I was reading something the other day and people are totally cool with working 40 hours a week for somebody else for the rest of their lives, 30, 40 years, but won't spend 3 years building their own. And mm, partially because we think we have to be doing, we have to constantly be going and constantly be working. And maybe that's the case. In some cases they are. It is. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's more difficult. It challenges a lot of our norms. But remaining in that stability helps us immensely and tremendously. We live better lives. We live more satisfactory lives. Maybe that's not true.
great.
I know there's something that we're missing, and I think that's what's bothering me. And it's bothering me that I can't rectify the logic. I'm not terribly worried
No,
about
I
it.
get
It's just with everything that is
been
going on
there.
this morning, it's just irritating me. So we just got to come back to our idea of our favorite idea of agency, because I can't stress that enough, right? When you take agency and you pay attention and start taking a lot of these actions and are responsible for you and your well-being, we get to stability much, much quicker. Why? Because we've implemented systems that are beneficial for us. Again, your system is going to look different from my system. It's going to look different from somebody else's system, and that's okay. That's not a problem. That's what makes the world a really, really cool place. Is everybody has a different it's like a bunch of mini systems operating to combine and form one like super huge system, which is dude,
Yeah.
oh my god. But if you're taking that responsibility, if you are paying attention to what's going on and trying to implement these systems, your life is going to become a little bit more consistent. If it's more consistent, decision making gets super easy because you're not going, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? You already know what to do because you know how to push the system forward. You know how to sit there and go, oh, okay, if I do this and this, then we are going to get here. And that's super important, super fucking important. It also reduces your capacity for, um, unbalanced emotions, I guess I think is the right way to say that. Right, I'm not going from here to 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 here. I'm going which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Going from here to here is not a good way. That's not the signs of a healthy nervous system by any stretch. We see those people, we're like, okay. Um, there's another one too. It just clicked a little bit. So, um, not to go back, but I am going to go back just for a second. When it comes to understanding the cultural aspect of things, we all want to be the hero of somebody else's story. That is ingrained in our society, right? We all just want to be the hero. I got people kids that I know would
Yeah.
never step up and do something like that, but they still want to be the hero of somebody else's story. Doesn't matter, right? However, nobody wants to be the hero of their own story for some odd reason. I don't really understand that. We don't think about it in terms of that. Like there are people who are heroes of their own story. There are super parents that are absolutely incredible, but because it doesn't affect anybody else, nobody else sees it, and so it doesn't. We we end up praising that dramatic effort instead of the dramatic effort of
You're
being a hero in
yeah.
somebody else's story rather than the sustainable effort that it takes to be the hero of your own. I knew I'd get there.
Wow. Beatboxing,
I mean,
big words,
yeah,
spoken word.
like, but but if you look at the news too, we don't get that kind of stuff. We don't praise people for their sustained effort. We literally say, like, "Man saves people from burning building," because that was a dramatic effort. He is a hero in somebody else's story.
You're not dissing that.
And
That's
again,
like what that
that's
meant. The what
not to say
yeah.
that the people who yeah, no, 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 not in any way, shape, or form. All I'm trying to say is that it's just not sustainable. Dramatic effort is not sustainable. You're not going to be the hero in everybody's story. It is almost impossible. It is impossible to go week after week after week after week and be like, I saved 700 million people in a burning building. I mean, it's just not going to last over time. And again, we don't always see the results of that sustainable effort that is put in. The parent that comes home after working 2 jobs and still has time to help their kid with their homework, that is a big deal. That requires sustainable effort, not
Yeah.
dramatic, but
Or
nobody
even
sees
then
that.
the
No, the
kids may
only
not
people
see
that
it
see
because
that are the
they're just
kids.
like,
So, yeah,
that's
you're the
mom,
hero to them, but
that's
that
dad, that's grandma, or whoever it is.
no,
That's
you're
just,
right. Yeah,
them
you're 100% accurate.
because I've been guilty of it
Yep.
because I did not. always acknowledge like the
what they
sustainable
do.
things that my parents have done until I've really grown up, become an adult, and other those things have been removed and I have to do them for myself. Even though not really, because I've been,
Right.
I'm a pretty independent person since I was like age 4. But like it doesn't come retroactively
Mhm.
until you start looking back. You're like, oh, like I really did do this. Like they didn't have to, but they were always not they didn't have to, but like they did all these things and they still did this for me.
Yes. And so then coming back to that idea of agency, it's not about controlling everything. It's just about setting everything up and being able to take responsibility and look at your life and make those necessary modifications so that you can keep continuing on in spite of. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I talk to are like, "Oh, I just can't take it anymore." Well, okay. Well, you probably need to take a step back and reassess, look at this, and this. And these aren't problems. It's just because they lead to problematic outcomes doesn't make them problems. It just means that you have to take a step back, look at everything and say, okay, this is where I'm going to push it forward. And provided that I'm pushing it forward in a way that is meaningful for me, and everything else is really second nature. It's not about how intense you're going. It's not about how hard you're working. It is about, are you showing up each and every day doing the best that you can in this moment? And if you can honestly say that, man, then you're pretty much there. And so then I got some reflection prompts. Um, it is helpful to kind of identify places that are stable or that are unstable. Make a list of those because it's important to know where that instability lies. What is contributing to that stability and what is contributing to that instability? Because when you figure out those factors, then you can reverse engineer what's going on. And then what areas of your life can you increase stability? Really, again, we're just talking about noticing, especially with reflections. That's the goal. We want to notice. We're not looking at like major overhauls. We want to notice so that we can begin to start thinking about how we can make those decisions. Thinking about sustainability like a trainable skill is going to be what helps to propel life forward in a
Mhm.
meaningful, positive manner. And without it, we're really just left with some form of chaos. Just because it's chaos doesn't mean that we're living intensely. We can still live stable
Yeah,
lives with a chaos. And so that's where that agency comes into play to be able to say, okay, I can make use of this. I don't need to make use of this. This will reduce the chaos in my life. This will make it a little bit more stable. Let's bring it over here.
super duper trooper.
Super duper important. Thanks for listening, everybody. Carlos and I greatly appreciate it. Comment something that resonated with you today. We are here for support, feedback, or anything else that you want to share. Join us on the Kindred app, a perfect space to keep unpacking what came up during the episode. Get live, peer-to-peer support from people with shared experiences. Kindred is built for those moments that no one else sees.
Take this one step deeper by reviewing today's reflection prompt in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and tune in next week for a new episode. Until next time, choose joy.